Hi, my name is Dr. Chinwe Williams, and I'm a licensed mental health therapist and the owner of Meaningful Solutions, a counseling practice based in Roswell, Georgia. I've had the privilege of working with teens and their families for so many years, and one of my passions is working with teenagers who are struggling with the complexities of adolescent life while also managing anxiety, depression, trauma, or despair. And speaking of despair, we've been spending this week talking about ways to elevate the conversation about suicide. We think this topic is so important because it impacts so many families and so many communities. And for some of you, maybe your community has had firsthand experience with this kind of tragedy. And if that's true for you, I am so very sorry. And whether or not you've experienced a suicide in your community, the statistics are clear. 1 in 9 teenagers under the age of 18 attempt suicide, and 1 in 6 consider suicide. Those statistics are both heartbreaking and insightful. They tell us that suicide is something that we absolutely need to talk about with the teenagers we know and care about. And you might be wondering right about now, if I bring this up, am I going to plant the idea in their mind when they weren't even thinking about it? Well, I want you to rest assured. Contrary to popular belief, multiple studies show that talking about suicide doesn't actually plant the idea of suicide in the minds of our teenagers. They likely already know about it and might even be considering it. Considering that suicide is one of the darkest and most painful thoughts that anyone can have, those dark, intrusive, and oftentimes persistent thoughts can make life seem completely hopeless. But we know that there is hope. Now, when your child says, "Hey, I don't want to be here," or when you suspect that they may be thinking about harming themselves, what do? I want you to know that there are ways that we can help to interrupt and even change some of those intrusive thoughts and help them to find hope in life. So let's focus on 3 of those ways. The first one is be open to talking about suicide. Now, if this is your first time having this kind of conversation, it's normal to feel a little unsure or maybe even awkward. I get it, but you've got this. You can be confident that the conversation will communicate how much you care. Again, simply asking won't plant a thought that isn't already there. In my experience, I find that initiating this type of conversation allows people to open up about a very painful subject and lessens the shame or guilt that they may be feeling. So you want to start by asking direct questions about how they're feeling about life, how they're managing their mental health, or how they're thinking about the world. You can even ask, "Are you thinking about harming or killing yourself?" I know that might feel scary, but asking clear questions and creating a non-judgmental space for them helps to normalize their experience, and it reminds them that they're not alone and that their feelings of hopelessness might pass. So number 2, we want to model the ways that life is worth living. So it's important to continue to help your teenager to reflect on hope, even in life's most challenging moments. Invite and encourage them to engage with those activities that they find fun, enjoyable, and even relaxing when they seem stressed or sad. Celebrate tiny moments as well as those big milestones, and remind them of their strengths and how important they are. Ask them to tell you about what they are in fact hopeful about, and dream about those hopes together. And number 3, be open to reaching out for help. One of our greatest needs is to be seen and cared for, especially when we are deeply hurting. So in this series, we want your teenager to hear that reaching out for help can be the best option when they're feeling hopeless. They may not know how to ask you about seeing a mental health professional, so find a way to offer it as an option. Counselors and mental health physicians are here to help. We have years of training to help guide people with suicidal thoughts to get to a place where they feel more hopeful about life. So don't hesitate to reach out for support and help from a counselor or a crisis line. So I want to share a resource with you for you or for your teenagers, and it's called the 988 National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So this is a confidential hotline where people can get help and support from trained professionals. So if you're curious about how it works, here's a quick synopsis. Once you call or text 988, you'll be connected with a trained counselor who'll conduct a brief assessment, and based on the results of that assessment, they're going to provide you with resources in your local area. And depending on the urgency, one resource might include a mobile crisis unit who'll come to your home to assess your child in person. If you want to learn more, access their website at 988lifeline.org. And parents, I want you to know that you've got this.